from that channel, and I'm here with Royce Hamer, founder of the Canadian Anti-Corruption League, right, Royce? And
Right.
Good, always good to see you.
Yes, you. Always happy to be here.
And this is kind of like the inaugural show.
Yes. This is the introductory show. It's going to be probably a weekly show, if not more, but we'll play that by ear. I started the Canadian Anti-Corruption League because of the corruption in governments, and in particular our Canadian government. Canada's not a bad country. Get that? I want to make that point. But on the world scale of corruption, we stand about 12, number 12, which is darn good out of 190 countries.
Right.
We should be number one. There's 11, 12 countries ahead of us, such as almost all the Scandinavian countries, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Belgium, New Zealand, Luxembourg. I think even Spain now is ahead of us. And they all have one thing in common, and I want to introduce that to the Canadian government. We had some, that's called a whistleblower program, a whistleblower protection program to be particular. If you don't protect your whistleblowers, no one comes forward to tell you of wrongdoing. And we go right back to, let's talk about quickly, Bernie Madoff. Everybody's heard about him, that $1 billion scam he ran. He was discovered by a lowly clerk who took it to her superior, and they didn't want to do anything about it. Eventually, that clerk went to the SEC, and after several tries, they did come and take a look and said, "Oh my God, this is big." Mm-hmm. And now that was discovered by the lowest clerk because she or he recognized that things were being done that didn't meet the criteria that they were hired for. Mm-hmm. So they blew the whistle. In the States, you get paid to blow the whistle. Not particularly with government, but industry. And some of the payouts are in the millions. So that's just an example of what a whistleblower can do. Now, we're not talking ratting out your parents or your neighbors or something. That's the term the bad guys use, ratting out, to make it undesirable. The thing is, no one can be corrupt by themselves. It takes at least two. As Mark Twain said, 3 people can keep a secret, but you got to kill 2 of them. So this is just to emphasize that a lot of wise people understood what was going on. Now, my history, how did I get this way? I was born and raised on the farm. The rural communities basically stuck together, but you knew what everybody was doing. And there was an incentive to be honest. Like, you didn't sneak over to your neighbor's place and steal tools, stuff like that. That was for the city people to come out to the farm and try that stuff. And in those days, of course, we didn't have all the alarm systems and fancy equipment we have now. In my younger years, we had a very close family that my parents met during the war when my dad was in the Air Force. And the boys in this family had a huge collection of dinky toys. Now, they were quite pricey even in those days.
I remember those dinky toys.
Yes,
Royce.
They were they're valuable now. So we would go to visit, and then one of the boys from that visiting would call me up and say, "I'm missing 4 toys. Will you look for them?" He knew, they wasn't accusing me. He knew it was my brother that take them because he was a bit of a klepto. So anyways, I would search his room and I would find them and I would take them and hide them. And next time we went down, I'd return them. So that was their mother told me, pointed to me and says, "Someday you're going to be a cop, a police officer, cop." Mm-hmm. Well, I never thought of it, but it was a neat suggestion. Anyways, that was my first thing, is counteracting this little thievery going on in the family. Later on, I did become a police officer, and I took my job pretty seriously, and I did not think that I was there just to raise money. The picture of a policeman holding a child's hand, taking him back to his parents or something, was always in the back of my mind. And as I was telling a chap recently, my highlight when I was at 11 Division in Toronto as a young police constable walking the beat is I helped 4 people that month. They all wanted to pay me. I told them send the money to the chief and put it in the Widows and Orphans Fund. But I never forgot that month. I mean, I even changed a tire for some wealthy people. It was fun. And I told them to send it to the chief of police, tell him what happened. And then the chief sent it back to my inspector, and I got called in and got commended. He had never, ever had a beat man get letters of commendation. And he didn't even know who I was until that happened. So I got noticed, but I didn't stay at it that long. I left Toronto, went to a small town, and in that town, my first day on the job, I'm walking down the street and I could hear some merchants behind me saying, "Hey, look, they hired another drunk." And I said to myself, "What the hell did I get myself into here?"
But they were talking about you?
They were talking about me, assuming that I was like the ones that were already there.
I see.
All right.
Okay.
They hired another drunk. Well, a new face gets that. Eventually, I had a talk with the chief because we had, I think it was 21 officers on that little force, and 8 of them were alcoholics. Uh-huh. That sort of ran normal in those days, but it wasn't right. It just was normal.
Uh-huh. You mean police officer? It was normal for police officers?
Oh yeah, they were. And what irritated me was my sergeant would pull up to me and what they call a check up on you, or visit. That was the term, a visit to your man on the beat. And you wrote down your notebook that Sergeant so-and-so visited me at 2:00 in the morning. And that was part of your routine. Anyways, you could smell the booze on him. He was supposed to be arresting impaired drivers, and he was worse than any of them. At one point, after a year or so, I had a talk with the chief, and the only result came out of that was they tried to get rid of me. I was persona non grata because of that. So they tried to fire me 3 times. The local police commission put me back on every time. And that irritated them and made it even worse for me. But eventually I had some of these merchants that I mentioned, even the meter man, sided up with me and started filling me in on what they knew. So eventually I took all my information to the Ontario Police Commission. So I'm a whistleblower. And they came out, they had a file 2 inches thick on this rinky-dink police force. It was a town of Whitby, by the way. And it was private in those, not private, but independent. Now it's part of Durham Region. Anyways, they came out and investigated, and the chief and 7 of them got told some were fired, some were told to leave. And the new chief wasn't much better. He actually came from Metro, but he wasn't very honest himself. But I ended up leaving the police work, period. And that was the kind of work that I did. Now, after that, I was always appalled at the corruption that we come across. The family, and mine included, we had a tractor dealership. And we bid on a new loader for our local municipality, but we weren't qualified. And here's how they work. Our tractor was 3 cylinders, and let's say it was 60 horsepower. The other company had a tractor that had a 4-cylinder engine. It was 8 horsepower less, which is significant. And the tender they put out, and this is how they justify themselves. Oh, it was fair. We had them tender for it. But in the tender, there had to be a 4-cylinder engine, even though it had less horsepower, even though it didn't have the reliability that our engine had. So we weren't qualified to bid.
That's because your product was superior.
Oh, yeah,
in a sense,
way superior.
Yeah,
but disqualified because of the number of cylinders, which is nonsense.
A technicality.
Meanwhile, every private contractor that had our brand was happy with them.
Yeah.
So that's how they do it. They say, "Oh, it was fair. It was fair." No, it's not fair. They exclude you by specification. Yeah.
So what was that? One of those deals where somebody was the preferred vendor and they wanted to give the
That's
contract
right.
to
That's
somebody?
right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I don't know why. Maybe there was a kickback deal. I don't know what's going on,
Yeah.
but that was the deal. So that's just some of the stuff they do in municipalities. Now it all starts at the top. So basically, I started the Canadian Anti-Corruption League. I'm running for prime minister, and I need people, you people, out there to sign the application to form a political party. I now have just under 100 signatures. I need 250. This does not mean anything. You still vote by secret ballot. You do not are under any obligation to support us, except we're asking you to help us form a political party called the Canadian Anti-Corruption League. Just the name alone will instill a bit of fear, maybe a lot, in the powers to be. They won't use the word corruption in Parliament. The only time it was used in the last 20 years that I can find was the late Jack Layton
Mhm.
used it in a fleeting term, and that was it. That was why won't they use the word corruption? I mean, we had the Mulrooney era. There was a book written about him. It was called On the Take. You can go to your library. You should be able to get a copy of it. That book, every page will almost infuriate you because Stevie Cameron, the author, and I don't know who her partner was, a man, they listed times, places, amounts, and names of people that they caught on the take. No one ever sued her. You can't sue anybody
For something that's
for
true.
telling the truth.
Yeah.
And if you do, you're just wasting your money.
Yeah.
But you're also focusing attention on yourself.
Right.
So your smart move in those cases, the publishers have learned this, is shut up and hope it goes away.
Mhm.
I'm not prepared to let it go away.
Mhm.
I want to pound them on corruption
Mhm.
all the time.
Mhm.
There's all sorts of options out there. They don't have to be corrupt, except if they want to line their pockets. So the other book that I have was written by Shiv Chopra. He's passed away now also. But he blew the whistle on Health Canada when Health Canada wanted to approve the bovine growth hormone for human consumption in Canada. Shiv and his team of 5 other scientists proved beyond a doubt that, I guess go back a bit. Monsanto, who makes this hormone to help cows produce more milk, claimed that 98% of it was destroyed in pasteurization. Shiv Chopra and his team proved also beyond a doubt that 98% of it was not destroyed. You see how they just flip numbers around? So they objected to their boss going to approve it, even with this evidence.
Mhm.
Eventually, they had no choice in their conscience but to blow the whistle.
Mhm.
They all lost their job.
Mhm.
One guy got his job back. One died in the meantime anyway, but they all got fired for being honest. Now, we don't need that in Canada. Getting
Yeah.
fired for being honest should not be allowed.
Well, and now people are getting
Now,
fired.
he wrote the book called Corrupt to the Core.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful book. Goes into his history, his background. He was a brilliant scientist, born in India. Anyways, he did one hell of a job. I met him at a health show once, and it's still outstanding in my life that I met this man,
Mhm.
gave him my card, had a brief chat with him,
Mhm.
and shook hands with him. You don't meet those people very often.
Yeah, I think he was because there's still a big controversy about raw milk. In fact, the government
Well,
raids farms for
now,
people selling raw
this
milk.
is another story that even raw milk, if they allowed the bovine growth hormone, would be toxic to you.
Well, this Shiv was involved in that, but now I understand they're going to allow American milk into Canada, which is got that growth hormone in it.
I don't know. That was part of the free trade deal,
Mhm.
and this when we had to readjust it under Trump.
Mhm.
Basically, they didn't get what they asked for. Because simple reason, I understand that the negotiator for Canada and the negotiator for the states were actually close friends.
Okay.
So they made it look like the United States got more than they got.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
Okay.
So I think there's some criteria that the milk's allowed in, but it can't have this growth hormone in it.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well,
So you're not obligated to use it.
Yeah.
So you're not, injecting your cows is not mandatory. That's how they got around that one. But again, let's go back to the raw milk. There's another case of corruption. The processors convinced the government that milk, I don't know if the word convince the government, but this is the excuse they use, raw milk is dangerous. Now, for instance, you can go to Britain and you can have your milk is still delivered there. You can have raw milk delivered. You can have pasteurized milk, and you can have pasteurized and homogenized. So the non-homogenized, the cream flows to the top. The raw, the cream flows to the top. The homogenized is beat up and it's suspended.
Yeah.
They don't have any problem with raw milk.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to Belgium and I think France too. There's vending machines on the street. And one of those, we put your money in, you get a glass of raw milk. But
Wow.
They're claiming here that it's too dangerous.
Yeah.
Personally, I spent 21 years drinking it.
Well, apparently it's got health benefits that.
Well, exactly. Raw milk is food. Pasteurized milk is white sludge.
Yeah.
We have cleaned up. Again, it was against the law, but we helped people access some raw milk because their children had asthma. Raw milk has the antibodies in it from the cow that clears up asthma for some reason. Now, somebody will ask me for research. Nobody researches something that's not making millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
That's why drug companies control the drugs. That's why they're against homeopathic, naturopathic cures. They can't be patented, therefore they're evil. Evil only to the drug companies. Follow the money trail is always the answer. And see what's going on. Look at this COVID now. They haven't even isolated the so-called COVID, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
We'll call it a virus. It doesn't matter what you call it. They've never isolated it, and there's been court cases won because of that. The one in Calgary, the people got off. All their fines were thrown away because they asked the Minister of Health for Alberta to show proof of isolation of the so-called pathogen. They couldn't. Spain, the Supreme Court, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like whoever was charged, they simply asked the court to subpoena the Minister of Health for proof that there was a pathogen isolated. They couldn't. Threw out all the cases. So there's a big reversal in this whole topic now. People are not being as harassed. Now, just yesterday, Rocco Galante, famous Canadian constitutional lawyer, won a case. This is against forced medication. Mm-hmm. We have a law we signed on to. It's called the Nuremberg Code 1947.
Yeah. And
the court ruled that it was the law. Everybody up until that point said, doesn't apply to us. Well, now the court has said it does.
The Canadian court did
that?
Yep,
Canadian court.
Amazing.
It is. That's the first thing I think that I've heard that Rocco has won. It's I backed the guy, but he hasn't been that successful. Why? Well, our courts are corrupt.
Well, yeah, I was.
I mean, this. How can you have justice when everything is corrupt? It's just nearly impossible.
Okay.
So there's been a number of articles, and in next show or the shows after, I will be introducing some of them to my audience. What I want my audience to do is go to the website, CanadianAnticorruption.org. There's a place where you can click to get that form. It's already marked off with X's. Just basically all you do is fill it out and sign it and date it. And the last line is your name and address. The people at Elections Canada may send you a letter asking you if you sign this form, and hopefully the answer is yes. I'm not.
Royce, is this the form here? I'm clicking. This is the form you want people to fill
that's
out,
the form, yes.
Right? So there you go, folks.
Yep, that's the form.
A link from the main page on the site.
So you say there. There's no. Okay, roll down. Okay. My goodness. Okay, that should have an X. on where you sign. I filled in the Canadian Anti-Corruption League at the top.
Mhm.
Then this is a declaration of a member in support of registry of a new political party. So that
That's
should be that's the one you
this is
fill out, and then
Yeah.
below that, declaration
an
comes a
existing.
member of no.
Yeah. So you got to do the top one.
Do the top
type
one, yep, and then do that one.
And then fill this stuff out.
That's how they check. They will not phone you. They will not send you an email.
Mhm.
They will do it by letter, and it's self-addressed, stamped envelope, so you don't even have to spend any money. Just say, yes, I signed it.
Right.
Now, I'm going to tell you, folks, just having a political party with this name, and I've mentioned it before, I think, based on my experience, now I worked with the Liberals on three elections back in the late 60s, early 70s. And when you send them a letter, back in those days when I was working with our MP for Ontario riding, his name was Norm Cavic, pretty good guy. Wasn't perfect, but very good. He told me that if I wrote a letter to him or anybody in Parliament, they have a algorithm, we'll call it. I don't think they used that term back then, but one letter equaled 75. So if I wrote a letter and I was complaining about something, in their system, that was 75 letters. That meant 75 people felt the same way I did. Now it's around 180. So do not even think for a second that if you wrote a letter, it's ignored. That letter is 180.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important to be involved in some way. So I'm telling you that just by signing this, that means 180 people feel the same way.
Right.
Even though it's just you doing it, right?
Yeah.
That backs it up. What's next on the? So
yeah,
like I said, I've been fighting corruption. After I left the police department, I started a garage. Then I started a business, manufacturing. I bought a Dodge truck in 1989, diesel. I needed it to pull the trailer because I was picking up supplies all over Ontario, plus into the States. I had a supplier down there that made caps and box liners for me. That Dodge would not run properly. There was really no pattern to it. But if I was driving along and it was acting up, it would start missing and running hot. If I shut it off, and I had to carry a 17 millimeter wrench with me, I had to crack the injectors, spin it over to get the air out of the system. So the problem was it was sucking in air somewhere, and Chrysler could not find it. Even the dealer I bought it from told me they weren't allowed to work on it. There was a Cummins engine sold by Chrysler. That was a big surprise. So eventually, after, and here's my,
we're going to show the picture. There's the picture.
I had to put a sign on it.
Yeah.
Dodge Lemon Diesel, 3 years, 13,000 or 15,000 repairs, 102 days of downtime, same repair 3 times, plus many others. So that got Chrysler really upset with me, but did I care? No. They even had some of their dealers refuse to buy off me. Wasn't a big deal. They even had people come out dressed up as farmers. Here's a guy in bib overalls, like you would find on an engineer, the striped overalls, telling me that he was a farmer and he wanted to know what was wrong with my truck. I looked at his fingers and I said, if you want me to believe you're a farmer, I said, you must think I'm pretty stupid. I said, you've got manicured nails. And there's not a farmer in Ontario that I know of ever goes in for a finger manicure. So I said, you can just leave my office and go back and tell them that you were discovered in 20 seconds because you're too stupid to know what a farmer is. So, and that's the kind of stuff they pulled on me all the time. Anyways, I never did get it fixed properly. That's why I put the sign on. I did find out several years later from a guy who worked on them The problem was the plastic fitting that went into the fuel tank would crack and suck air. And when it got air into the injection pump, the engine would, there's a plunger in there that ran your timing, and it would go into retard, and diesels on retard get very hot. They'll burn off the injectors. That's what happened several times. And they were trying to blame me for it. Oh my God, it was even went to arbitration once. And here's two engineers lying through their teeth. When I confronted them with that, the lawyer in the arbitration said, "You're not supposed to call people liars." I said, "Have them sue me." Because I said, I just proved they were liars. Anyways, they took it, they had it go to another dealership, a Cummings dealer. They couldn't find it.
Yeah.
Again, but, anyway, that was my story. But anyways, I fought back. A lot of people don't. Well, I'll tell you, if you don't fight back, and I could have taken them to small claims court too. I didn't feel like it at the time. What I do, I bought another truck, a diesel, this time a Ford.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm making two payments of $800 a month, and Ford never let me down. Now, that's what I had to do to keep my business running. I had to buy a second diesel truck. Eventually, I sold this one to a guy after explaining to him what was going on.
Right.
And he was just plowing snow, so he didn't care, and he was from Quebec.
Oh, okay.
So he bought it, and he was happy with it.
He knew what he was getting himself
he
into.
may have known, but again, if you have enough time, you can solve any problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't do it. If I put a wrench to that outside of cracking the injectors, they'd have canceled the warranty because I touched it. I did something to it. That's how they think.
Right. Yeah. So just again, looking for a technicality.
That's right. They want to dump you.
Yeah.
The whole thing is dump this person instead of fixing it.
Yeah,
now, anybody can make a bad product, but not standing behind it when you're somebody like Chrysler. That's unforgivable.
Okay, so that's corruption. Now,
yeah,
I know you got. No, I'm just being mindful of the time here, Royce. So we've been at this for almost half an hour.
Okay.
I want to make sure we get through the materials you want to show us and
well, there's not much in material. This
I like that.
I tried to find the pictures of the police department I worked for. That was a town of Whitby. It didn't matter because it just showed the number of people and with me in it. So I'm not fudging any stories. Okay.
Yeah.
After we got rid of that problem, I mean, that's when I left and started my own garage. So I got away from the police work.
Oh, right.
It was irritating. It's even worse now.
Well, I just got to say, I was in a car accident the other day, and the police officer that came and to the scene was awesome, amazing. Like I was very, very, very impressed.
Where was that happen?
In Toronto.
Oh, but not here, not in the clinic, not in your
no,
studio.
it was a car accident, so it was.
Okay.
On, on one of the highways.
Yeah.
So Royce. We're telling people to go to the website to sign the form.
Yeah, that's the important thing.
Party.
We got to get the party established.
Yeah.
We're not asking for any money. We're not asking for donations, anything right now.
Just
eventually, when we form a party, we will be able to give you a tax receipt. Yeah. Then we'll ask for some help. Mm-hmm. Right now, I'm handling it with that. Also, and I don't have it with me, this show is going to be sponsored by Ozone Man.
Yeah.
I sell ozone machines. Now, for the people's background, I'm also a health coach. Mm-hmm. And all I use to help people get well is nutrition and oxygen. Remember that, nutrition and oxygen. When someone tells me they eat right, I say to them, can you explain that? Or you just tell me every day you have a full stomach. Mm-hmm. Because having a full stomach has nothing to do with nutrition. Now, oxygen, the symptoms are subtle outside of dying, but you need oxygen to live, and oxygen heals everything. Now, let's just bring a fact to life here. In 1931, a German doctor, Dr. Otto Warburg, received the Nobel Prize, proving beyond a doubt at that time and now that all cancer was caused by lack of oxygen. Why? Well, cancer is anaerobic.
Right.
So when you starve a cell of oxygen, it can mutate into a cancer. Mm-hmm. The only difference between a cancer cell and a healthy cell, cancer cells do not have a die-off gene. A healthy cell replaces itself periodically.
Yeah.
For instance, your stomach lining is 3 times a week. Your skin is once a week. Your eyes are once every 6 months. And if they don't get enough oxygen in that process, they can mutate. So Dr. Warburg got the Nobel Prize for this. And here's what he's criticized for. You'll love this. He was protected throughout the war by a guy we all hate. Warburg was a Jew.
Mm-hmm.
Hitler protected him and his entire family because Hitler's mother died of cancer. Hitler feared cancer, and as long as Warburg was doing his research, no one touched him. And he's criticized for not going to a death camp. Whoopee shit. People thinking strange, don't they? Imagine criticizing a man for doing his research and staying alive after receiving a Nobel Prize and 7 years earlier. But that's how the world works.
So his main thing was that he was showing that cancer.
He proved beyond a doubt at that time, and it's still true, no one's ever proven him wrong, that starving the body of a certain amount of cancer or oxygen, cell can, not necessarily will, mutate into a cancer. And if you want to get rid of that cancer, you have to get your pH up, because when your pH is acidic, you can't absorb oxygen. So you get your pH up well above 7 and into the 8s and 9s, and now you're going to absorb oxygen, and that oxygen is going to kill the cancer. There's a few other tricks, but pH equals absorbing oxygen, high pH. Very important. Cancer is very fragile. We know it's deadly, but a lot of people don't realize how fragile it is. It only needs one thing for energy. Oh, incidentally, in my shows, I'm going to do some health tips. Okay, so you're going to get some real benefit from this. The last lady I helped get rid of her breast cancer, and I never even saw her in person.
Yeah.
She did exactly what I told her, and took her 4 months she went to her visits every month, got rid of her cancer, and it cost her $40. Not bad deal, right? You know what the medical people would have made on that? Yeah.
Yeah, they would have made
a hell of a lot more than $40, I can tell you.
And she might not have made it.
Oh, she wouldn't have. The success rate on traditional cancer treatment is something in the 93% failure rate.
Yeah.
93 to 95. The alternative, generally speaking, is the exact opposite, because we know what caused it. And we're not magicians. We read stuff like Warburg's work.
Yeah.
We got the pH up. Now, cancer must have glucose for energy.
Yeah.
That's sugar. Sugar comes in many forms.
Yeah.
Get rid of the sugar. Even fasting is a big help for getting rid of cancer or other things. When you fast, and I'm not talking starving, I use bone broth when I'm fasting. Now I'm getting nutrition. I never get the hunger pains. Or if I do, I just have another cup of bone broth. Oh. And I buy grass-fed bones, from grass-fed beef. And it works wonders.
Yeah.
The simplest things can save your life. And I can't say that about the medical people.
Well, that's what I mean. And we've heard that. I mean, we are, as a society, under a myth that cancer has a no cure. But there's thousands of people around the world that are finding their way through cancer after a diagnosis and living.
Yep.
And they're doing it often with food, with fasting, with alternative treatments, with the knowledge of sugar and pH.
Well, you take some societies, for instance, the Mediterranean diet, they call it, is, all around the Mediterranean. There was a number of stories about people that came to America, were successful, made money, got cancer, and decided to go back home to die. Mm-hmm. And when they went back home, they started eating the traditional diet, and the cancer disappeared. Yeah. It's not easy, folks. When you've got an organism that's so fragile that it has to have certain things to live, all you do is deny it them, or feed it the stuff it can't handle. Yeah. It's best to do them both at once.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so where do people go to get the ozone machines?
Again, you can contact me, Royce at domehome.ca.
Yeah.
We have a website called Ozone Man.
Yeah.
.biz, I think it is, or net.
Okay, we're gonna have to make a commercial and just cut to it here.
Well, yeah, because Ozone Man is supporting this show.
Yeah.
And that's how I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And now ozone is oxygen.
Yeah.
It's an oxygen. It's a gas with 3 extra oxygen atoms. They only last 25 minutes, but in that 25 minutes, they will clean up odors like you wouldn't believe. When the time limit of ozone is up, it simply reverts back to oxygen.
Yeah.
I have about a dozen people now who are using it in their bedroom an hour and a half before bed. It sets the timer for an hour. It shuts off. Half an hour later, the ozone is gone. They go to bed, and they're claiming unprecedented sleep quality. That's an indication of oxygen.
I'm one of those.
Right. Yes, right. I forgot about you.
Because we do that.
Yep.
Every night, and the great thing too is it just smells so fresh.
Oh, the whole house. And even if there's mold around it gets rid of mold, mildew, all that stuff, which is very toxic to the human body if it takes root. So that's it. Now we have 2 machines in one. We pack them together. One's the bubbler, so you can bubble your liquids, and you can drink some added oxygen in your water, your fruit juice, even your salad dressing oil can be bubbled for your salad dressing. That same machine has a hose, and you can let's say you got a sore on your arm, you can put an old bread bag or something on, put the hose down, and give yourself 30 minutes. That'll heal quick. And if you got eczema, all these things, oxygen heals. Just remember, without oxygen, you got about 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Without food, you got a month. Without water, you got 3 or 4 days. So, which is most important? They all are, but the oxygen is most critical. You need to be able to breathe.
Okay, so we've got the email address. Royce's email address is right there, royce@domehome.ca. So people, if you're interested in getting that, or more info about it, just send Royce.
No, okay, you done?
Well, I'm just
okay.
Yeah, we're gonna get back to it, but I just want to say, you got this great health stuff, and you're talking about treatments for cancer, so people could just email you, ask any questions they want. But I want to make sure we get back to all the stuff you want to get out about the corruption today as well.
Yeah. At some point, I'd like to do a show with call-ins.
Yeah.
Sometime. That can take a lot of time, but I think it's valuable. People can get on the air and ask questions. What else? I guess that's about it.
I thought you had more pictures. I was looking forward to more pictures.
Well,
Royce, but,
I can show you one more picture. Again, this is not me, but my father, when he got out of the Air Force, in those days, you could not buy a tractor. They were just.
Did he wait a sec? I just want to ask you. In the Air Force, where was he? Did he go over to?
He was overseas for a short period of time. I think 4 months.
In the Second World War.
Yeah. He when he joined, they asked him what he wanted to do, and he said, "Well, I'd like to be a pilot." Mm-hmm. And he had already taken an aptitude test. Now this man had grade 8.
Mm-hmm.
He quit school to help his father in the farm during the Depression. So the recruiter, the sergeant, says, "Listen, son," Dad was about 25 or 26 at the time. He said, "Listen, son, I can train a pilot in 30 days. What you've got, I can't buy."
Mm-hmm.
So they put him in charge of inspecting munition factories for quality control.
Right.
He did that in Ontario for a couple of years, I think. Then they shipped him overseas. The war was winding down by that time, but he was in an outfit called the Mackenzie King Highly Technical 500. Mm-hmm. He had mechanical aptitude. So this, I don't know if you can see it.
We're gonna get that. Yeah.
This is a tractor he built. My mother always said when they bought the farm, he shows up one day with a great big generator.
Mm-hmm.
She said, "Why'd you buy that?" Well, he said, "I need a tractor." She said, "That doesn't look like a tractor to me." He says, "This will be my welding machine that allows me to make a tractor."
Wow.
So He fitted this on an old car frame. I remember the engine was a 6-cylinder flathead from an Oldsmobile car, and he hooked up all sorts of controls for it. This guy even knew a fair bit of electronics. So he built the welding machine, and then he built the tractor. And he used that tractor for 11 years.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time on that tractor. That tractor was very powerful. It had a GMC engine.
Yeah.
It had a GMC transmission. It had a double reduction Rio. That stands for Robert E. Oldsmobile. Rio differential in the back. The radiator came off an old truck that has the name Relay on it. There's not much on the internet about that company. They only lasted about 3 years. It was a monster of a rad. So, again, when Father bought the farm, he had to buy a team of horses. He was not a horseman.
Yeah.
He realized they were dangerous and had their limits.
Yeah.
Both his father and my mother's father were horsemen. They didn't have tractors, but they knew their horses. He didn't love horses at all. Now, we had a riding horse on the farm. That was good. But anyways, so there's a tractor. I remember going with my mother to Canadian Tire once. It needed a clutch.
Yeah.
So she went down and she said to the guy, I need a clutch for a 37 GMC. The guy comes back and says, we don't have one. So she says, can I use your phone? It's long distance. It's from Whitby to Brooklyn. He knows it. Yeah, he says, make her call. And she caught Father in for dinner. She said, they don't have a clutch for a GMC. He says to her, ask them if they got one for a Buick. She says, the guy, do you have one for a Buick? He goes back and says, yeah. But he says, it's $5 more and it won't fit. She says, don't ever question my husband on mechanical thing. I'll take it. And it was the identical clutch. Only Buicks were a prestige car. Right. GMC trucks were. Anyways, they paid $5 more and got the clutch. And he, put it in. So that's, some of the funny stories you remember. Interesting.
Very cool. Okay, yep. Royce. Anything else we're talking about today?
I think we're okay.
Okay, so I just want to emphasize for people to go to the website. Yep. And we're running that, the Canadian Anti-Corruption League.org.
Yep.
And
just scroll down. You can go to the Ozone Man if you want.
Oh, yeah, the Ozone Man. Or just send Royce an email, royce@domehome.ca. There it is.
Yep.
And but if you could, just go to the website and scroll down and then click here on this blue thing. And that will bring you to the
form.
The form for the political party. And just click this box right here. The type 1 and help the Canadian Anti-Corruption League to become a political party.
Yep.
And let's get rid of corruption in Canada. Okay, Royce?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, thanks for doing this. Obviously, thanks on behalf of Canadians everywhere.
We're going to win this. We're not on a radio.
Well, yeah, we're still on.
Oh,
so
okay.
you could just
here's a little fact.
Yeah.
If we form a political party with this name, things are going to start changing just because of that.
Yeah.
They don't want to mention corruption, and I got nothing against it. I'll pound it into their skull.
Well, I mean, just one example, the wheat scandal.
Yeah.
Right. Well, where did that go? I mean, was there any accountability? Did anybody get held accountable for that? Everybody just forgot about it.
That's right. Look at all the problems that with Trudeau, I call him Picture Boy. He was criticized 3 times for violating ethics commission.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing happened.
What happened? Yeah.
The last election, they didn't even mention it.
Yeah.
They had the guy, as we call it, by the short and curly, and they didn't do it. What's wrong with reminding Canadians this guy has no morals?
Well, yeah, and obviously the government or the establishment has no mechanism for keeping people accountable.
Exactly. Now, we did have a wee bit of whistleblower protection before Harper. Harper got rid of it.
Yeah.
How do you do that? You just defund it.
Yeah.
Now there's nobody, and no one brought it back since.
Right.
We've had 2 prime ministers. They don't have any desire to bring it back. Okay. I will.
Awesome.
It's going to be They'll be watching me. They'll be watching my MPs. We don't care. If they catch somebody doing something, I want him out of there.
Okay. Royce,
Period.
this is
Okay.
awesome. This is great. Okay. Thanks for doing this. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Go to the website and send Royce an email, royce@domehome.ca. See you next time.
Do you have